Ida for crashing a dinner on my ex and his new girlfriend Uninvited. I, 32F, broke up with my longtime partner Nathan, 33M, right before COVID hit. We stayed in the same house during lockdown and continued to live together after the lockdown was lifted because we generally get along, and we had a child, 11F, to raise together. Over the last 3 years, we've been roommates and co-parents, nothing more. One day, he was supposed to take our daughter to buy new school clothes, but she came back 10 minutes later in tears. She said they were on their way to the store when his new girlfriend, Kelsey, called, and he drove her back home and dropped her off so he could go spend time with her. He even asked our daughter to lie to me for him, but she was tired of covering for him, implying she'd been lying for him for a while now. When he got home, we had a massive argument. I didn't care if he dated other girls, I cared that, for some reason, he thought he had to sneak around, and it made him act like a jerk to me and our daughter. I told him that if he had been a man about this new girl and just introduced me to her, then maybe we could have all been friends, but instead, he had to act like a dumb teenager, and it ended with him moving out to live with his parents, Ethan and Olivia. A couple of days later, he called and apologized saying he hoped it wasn't too late for him to do things right, and he hoped we could all be friends. I was hopeful that we could finally co-parent in peace for the sake of our child. And this is where things took a turn for the worse. I have always been close with my ex's parents, to the point where even after we broke up, I would be invited over regularly for dinner. They said even if I wasn't their son's partner, I'm still their grandchild's mother, and that makes me family. So one day, when my daughter texts me while at their house and invites me to dinner because they're having my favorite meal, I don't think twice about coming over, even though Kelsey, whom I've never met, now lives there. I figured everyone had to be okay with it since my daughter was inviting me. I ended up having dinner with Ethan, Olivia, and my daughter, but Nathan only came upstairs to grab 2 plates of food and went back downstairs. When I asked Olivia why, she said Kelsey wasn't feeling well today. Whatever, I thought, she's just sick and I'll meet her another day. I had a perfectly pleasant dinner with my ex-in-laws, helped clean up, and made a promise to bring them a coconut cake, Ethan's favorite, and took my daughter home. Later, Nathan blew up my phone with texts and calls, saying it was so weird and rude that I came over for dinner uninvited, that I made Kelsey feel uncomfortable and unwelcome there, and that I caused trouble in their relationship because she assumes we must still be in love for me to come over and see his parents out of the blue like that. I had a talk with my daughter and asked her calmly if she had asked everyone else if it was okay if I come over before she texted me, and she sheepishly said she didn't know she had to ask since it had never been a problem before. I didn't tell her about her dad's meltdown at me, or tell Nathan that she's the one who invited me. She's a child and shouldn't be involved. Instead, I just told him I'm sorry, me dropping by made things awkward, but I thought he wanted us all to be friends from now on, and I figured this was a good place to start being friends. He said there was no way she'd want to be my friend now that I made her feel uncomfortable in her own home. It wasn't my intention to make anyone uncomfortable, but I admit I'd be perturbed if I was the other girl and this happened to me. Update 1. I'll start from the day after the dinner and try to give a concise recap of events. The day after the dinner, I bring Ethan the coconut cake I promised, but not wanting to stir up trouble, I text that I'm bringing it over instead of dropping by unannounced like I normally would. Ethan meets me on the porch instead of inviting me in like he normally would, and I gathered from his distant but polite tone and body language that he was basically shooing me away. I was hurt that a man who had always treated me like a daughter was being cold, but I didn't say anything about it and left. Over the next couple of weeks, my ex-in-laws continue to hold me at arm's length, where once I would consider them not only family, but close friends. I used to take Olivia to doctor's appointments and shopping trips, but texts asking her about her next appointment or inviting her to come shopping with me went unanswered. I used to go fishing and go karting with Ethan, but these invites also stopped. I had a sneaking suspicion Nathan was behind the sudden change in my ex-in-laws, and I also started to notice a change in my daughter. Because Nathan and I were never actually married, there was no actual custody agreement between us. She would just text her dad if she wanted him to come pick her up, or text me if she wanted to come home. She's always been a daddy's girl and spent more time with him than she did at home with me, and I was fine with that, but after the dinner, she spent a lot more time at home with me. One day, she went with her dad, only to call me within the hour crying and asking me to pick her up. On the way home, I gently reminded her that she could talk to me about anything, even if it was hard, and that adjusting to her dad having Kelsey in his life would be a challenge, but if she had any problems, she could tell me, and I would help her fix them. She then told me what had transpired over from her point of view. Her dad and Kelsey had been dating for about 6 months before my daughter told me, and she pretty much knew about it from the beginning. Nathan told her she couldn't tell me about it, and she agreed because she didn't want us to fight. Nathan also had Kelsey around my daughter from the beginning, and my daughter was wary of her at first but started to like her. The day after the dinner, Olivia texted my daughter and basically said, "You're not in any trouble, but don't mention your mom around Kelsey again." My daughter texted back asking why, and she said, "It's just easier not to upset her." Kelsey started doing all the things with my ex-in-laws I used to do. She took Olivia to doctor's appointments and went shopping with her, and she went fishing with Ethan and even tried to replicate my coconut cake. My daughter tried talking to her dad and said it felt like Kelsey was trying to replace me, and he just said, "She's just being their daughter-in-law." your mother isn't their daughter-in-law anymore. Still, my daughter is stubborn and insisted it wasn't fair that her mother was being excluded from the family. Nathan just kept repeating, "She's not family," to which my daughter yelled, "She's my mom, that makes her more family than Kelsey." At this, Kelsey apparently got up and left the room while Nathan ran after her. Kelsey didn't just leave the room, she took her keys, got in her car, and drove away. Nathan drove after her, while Ethan and Olivia started scolding my daughter and saying she needed to apologize to Kelsey when she got back. That's when my daughter called me in tears and asked me to come pick her up. She's insistent that she doesn't want to go back over there until they all apologize to her, and I don't blame her. As sad as I am for myself, my heart breaks tenfold for her. Update 2. In the last couple of months, I've gotten a lawyer and have been working out custody with Nathan, which was rough at first, but then calmed down. I don't want to go into too many details because this situation doesn't really involve me anymore, just my ex, and he is still my daughter's father. So I'll give the short version. When Nathan was contacted by my lawyer, he started blowing up my phone, saying I was trying to take his daughter and all his money away from him, and how could I do this to him because he would never do this to me, etc. I shut that down quickly and told him I didn't want a dime from him, I just wanted some assurance that the agreement we already had, where our daughter stays with me but is free to visit him, stays in place. He kept trying to say lawyers were unnecessary because he wasn't going to try to take her, but I didn't back down and he eventually caved. Meanwhile, I had my own things to sort through, and so did my daughter. It took a while to fully own the fact that I definitely contributed to the pain she is now feeling. When I broke up with Nathan, I comforted her by telling her nothing would change, that we were still living together. Then Nathan moved out, and still I told her nothing would change, that I'll still be active in my ex-in-laws' lives. And while that was a nice thought, it didn't really prepare my daughter for the reality that families change all the time, and change doesn't have to be bad or scary. This entire time she was basing her mental health on the idea that nothing about her family will change, so Kelsey's introduction slowly started to crumble away that feeling. But change is good, and change is normal. I may not like being cut off from Ethan and Olivia, but they're not wrong when they say I'm not family anymore. They're not wrong for trying to be welcoming to the new woman in their son's life. It sucks but life goes on. Anyway, my daughter has been going over there for a few hours about once or twice a week with lots of caveats that she, her dad, and I all agreed to. She gets to decide when she comes over. Her dad can invite her, but she's allowed to say no, and he can't argue. No one will force her to interact with anyone she doesn't want to. No one will take her anywhere if she doesn't want to go. If anyone makes her uncomfortable, she'll leave and walk to Diane's house and call me to come pick her up. Diane is a co-worker of mine who lives 3 blocks away and has known my daughter since she was a baby. This arrangement has been working out, and my daughter has said everyone has been extra nice to her, but they haven't actually said sorry for anything they did. She slowly started to seem happier and happier over there, and asked if she could go to Ethan's birthday party because her aunt and uncle from out of state would be visiting with her cousins, and I said yes. Well, tonight she came home and told me a doozy of a story. The party was great, everyone was having a good time, but Kelsey was nowhere to be found. Apparently, she wasn't feeling good again, and Nathan went downstairs to check on her. Suddenly, they hear him screaming, "Where is it? What did you do with it?" Everyone got quiet and looked to the stairs, where Nathan stomped up and said everyone had to turn out their pockets because some money was missing from his parents' safe. For some context, this safe is locked under the stairs and needs a key and combination to get into it. It has important documents for the entire family and emergency cash in it. Ethan, Olivia, Nathan, and now Kelsey, are the only ones who know the combination, and the only key is hidden in the master bedroom. Nathan went downstairs to check on Kelsey, and she was asleep in bed, but the door to the cupboard under the stairs was open. He got a bad feeling and checked the safe, and about $2,000 was missing. He woke Kelsey up, and she cried and said she had been asleep the entire time, and someone must have come down and stolen the money while she was sleeping. I was pretty gratified to hear that my ex's family is nowhere near as naive as he is, and immediately tore into him for believing that lie. None of them had a key or knew the combination, and all of them had been hanging out in the living room. Kelsey cleans the master bedroom all the time and knows where the key was. Kelsey knows the combination. Kelsey was downstairs the entire time. Kelsey is the only person who could have done it. Nathan tried to defend Kelsey and told everyone to leave her alone, but Ethan put his foot down and told his son to find the money or he would call the cops to do it. Nathan went back downstairs to talk to Kelsey, and everyone upstairs could hear her sobbing and calling him names. She went to drive off in her car, and Nathan followed her, and what did he see sitting in her backseat? A bag stuffed with bills, a bag that wasn't there a few hours ago. He tried to stop Kelsey from leaving, but she tore out of the driveway like a bat out of hell. Ethan and Olivia are furious and want to press charges, but Nathan is begging them not to, saying he can get her to bring it back. I don't know where this is going to go next, but honestly, I'm just kind of glad I ended up not being friends with Nathan and Kelsey.